Thanks. Well, Donna referred earlier to telecom operators eating their own lunch, and I can promise you that very soon we will be eating our own lunch. But before then, we perhaps have a little bit of time for questions. We have some roving mics in the room. Anybody like to take this opportunity to pin our panelists down on some issue? We have the microphones available. Sir, you have the microphone. If you could just say your name for the benefit of the audio.
Yes, thank you. My name is Richard LaBelle. I'm particularly interested in the use of ICT as a tool for development. And my question would be for the speaker from Jesse. What specifically are you doing to address the capacity issue in developing countries in your report? Are there any specific recommendations? You're looking at sectors. But one of the key issues for many developing countries, of course, is capacity, resources, choices.
Okay. So, well, as I said, the study is global. When it comes to developing countries, I mentioned India. We analyzed smart grid in India and the motor industry in China as well. And so we have specific recommendations on that regard.
Any other questions at this point? Yeah, we have a question over here.
Am I coming through? Yeah. Dave Faulkner from British Telecom. I was interested in what Nigel had to say about keeping a product till it reaches its natural death. I've got a 23-year-old car, and it was vandalized last week, but the insurance covered that, so it didn't die. I mean, how long are we going to keep things before they are literally no good anymore? Are we going to recover all the bits out of it and therefore make, say, a laptop almost sustainable? I read that in Australia they can recover 90% of the bits out of electronic products. So if we're able to do that, then the amount of resource going into the next generation is not so much. So how are we going to measure when something's ready to be killed, or do we just keep them going forever?
We actually have a presentation on e-waste issues in this afternoon session. I don't know if any of our panelists want to tackle that particular question, or we can leave it till this afternoon. Nigel, did you want to?
Well, I mean, I don't think I've got much more to say. I mean, I was using an extreme example. I mean, clearly there's a balance, isn't there, that has to be struck. I mean, if you use some bits of equipment forever and ever, then they become so less efficient they probably consume more energy than would cost to make a new one. But, you know, I think what I was getting at was the automatic sort of way that some things get replaced in offices and across all society. You see things get replaced for no good reason, just because they happen to be on a schedule for being replaced.
Perhaps one more question? Yes, we have a question over here in the middle, if we can get the microphone to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Pavel Antonov. I'm coming from Bulgaria, working for a network serving civil society environmental activists. And we are trying to take this work globally with the Association for Progressive Communications. I was very inspired to hear from the presentation of Mrs. Young that there is understanding that the behavior change is key to solving the problems. It also sounded quite good to hear that the technology is already there, so it's basically a matter of behavior change. I was just wondering, from the point of view of environmentalists, a major part of the global issue around climate and other environmental events is the ever-increasing consumption. And so I was thinking whether the change we're looking at in this sector is the change where we get more and more services and more technologies. We need to consume more and more, probably at the cost of other businesses around which will lose their share. Or is there an understanding in the business sector that there may be a situation when we actually have to look into reducing consumption as well?
I think absolutely the two go together. I mean, you have to reduce your consumption. So everything that we're trying to do, and we would encourage our customers to do and our suppliers, is actually about energy efficiency. So driving down the amount that you use, knowing full well that actually you're going to grow. So actually growing less in terms of your energy consumption rather than your business than you would otherwise do. So you have to do the two hand in hand, and if you don't, then you will end up in a situation where actually ICT becomes one of the biggest problems, let alone one of the biggest solutions. So it's actually working hand in hand. In terms of opportunities, I think every industry can get opportunities from sort of the current arena that we're in terms of climate change, environmental, sustainable development. Every opportunity comes through looking at your business and your business processes and saying, how can I do these better? And where are the opportunities within the marketplace? And if you look at what consumers are demanding, look at what businesses are demanding from us, look at what governments are demanding from us, it's ever more sort of proof that our green credentials, in inverted commas, are actually there and can be substantiated. So every organisation will either lose or gain from what comes through legislation, through regulation, through their business practices and through what their customers demand. So every company, every industry has the opportunity to grow in this area. It's just that in terms of us as an industry, in terms of ICT, we've also got to look at the amount of consumption that we make and look at how we make that ever more efficient and yet still grow the demand for ICT.
Well, I think on that optimistic note, we'll conclude our session. But I just wanted to draw a couple of conclusions from what we've heard, very rich discussion that we've heard this morning. We've heard many statistics, but I think the key thing to remember is that they are all within the range established by the IPCC of what we need to achieve in terms of reductions of greenhouse gas emissions, in other words, between 25 and 40% in the coming decades. We've also heard that there are many exciting new technologies already here that we can use to achieve those reductions, but there are even more promising ones on the horizon. I was particularly struck by your statistic on the BT's 21st century network. And as we move to next generation networks, I think we can see quite substantial reductions of 30–40% in energy use. And then finally, just to quote from Lewis, it's a smart opportunity. It'll genuinely be a win-win opportunity whereby we can save our planet and save our corporate bottom line at the same time. And with that, I'd ask you to join me in thanking all the presenters for this morning's session.